you for listening to the Conformed to Christ podcast, where we seek to engage the mind, affect the heart, and call people to follow Christ. I'm Jay Jones, and I'm here with George Mays and Philip Tallman.
What up?
Well, Philip's got a day off, so he's in here with us.
Glad to be back
On
with
his
you
day
guys.
Providentially, he didn't even know that we were
Recording today.
Yeah,
recording
no clue.
today.
No clue. And I got peer pressured into it.
Yeah, you did.
I love you guys.
Yeah.
Well, it's Free for All Friday, guys, but we're going to do something that's not so free for all, I guess. The elders of our church presented on Sunday evening at our members' meeting, motion to leave the Southern Baptist Convention. If you're listening to the podcast, you're probably not surprised at all by that. Right?
Have we not been very subtle about that, Jay?
Yeah, probably wondering, like, about time. You guys, all you guys do is complain about it.
Right.
So we submitted that to them, but we're elder-led congregational church, and so the decision is up to the congregation. And we laid out kind of like there's kind of 6 categories. This piece of paper that was handed out to the congregation. And so I figure we'll just talk about it. We'll talk through those, what we presented, because people listening might be curious, and also just to help like the people of our church to think through it better.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them submitted questions to us on our members page, and we're going to walk through those questions that they have. Some of them are very good questions. And
Yeah, this might, there's people that listen that aren't at our church, surprisingly.
Yeah.
This might help them to think through this also, because this is a hard decision. This is not a decision that we're taking lightly. That's the reason why we have gone slow, even as we've been very vocally critical of the direction of the SBC, is that this is not, this isn't something that we should gleefully and very quickly rush into. And so I know that there's a lot of churches that are in that same position.
Right.
There may be people listening who go to churches where the pastor or pastors want to leave and the congregation is still on the fence, or it could be the other way around where, I know plenty of people that go to churches where the pastors are just sticking it out in the SBC for whatever reason. And so maybe this will be helpful for them also to think through these things.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Well, since it's serious, I won't bring in the old Biden news. We'll save that for next time, because that'll change the whole atmosphere.
It will change the entire direction that we go, Jay. That's probably a good call.
It's pretty funny. I'll just say, give it a Google.
All right. He's trending for all the wrong reasons.
You want some good laughs.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump
did you see?
the
You're bringing up Biden.
Oh my!
Did you see
Here we go.
Did you see that?
Philip,
the gas prices are rising, and he wants to shut down more oil pipelines. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So the prices are just going to skyrocket.
You're right.
So I guess the administration was pressuring OPEC to pump more, and they said pump it yourself.
Right.
Oh man.
Do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I read something I don't know what the source was. I just saw the headline that someone in Biden's administration was that in order for us to move towards green energy, we want the oil companies to go bankrupt.
Right.
So it seems like they're intentionally trying to push this agenda.
Yeah. It's really stupid without having like a broad foundation of nuclear energy.
Right.
It's really dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Because China's not abiding by any of this. They're
Right.
like building coal plants over there.
Yeah.
Like building them as fast as they can.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought that was just another evidence that this administration is pretty incompetent.
Well, and
they're pushing an agenda, but it's anyone with half a brain should see that this agenda, whether you would like to see it in the long run, is not something that you can just push through immediately without just completely destroying the economy.
Yeah. Well, they don't care about that.
I guess not.
Because most of them are rich anyway.
Just print some more money.
All the rich people will be okay. That's all they care
Some more
about.
money. Did you? I laugh every time I see it. You've seen the picture of Hillary Clinton when she walked into the house of like the working class people. Have you seen that picture?
No.
Oh,
Is it
I mean,
funny?
it's just a small like kitchen,
Uh-huh.
just a normal kitchen, not pristine or anything.
Like a
It looks like
normal-
it's lived in.
It's like a normal house.
And her the look on her face is one of just
Horror.
absolute shock.
Really?
Yeah. It's like Nancy Pelosi pulling out her ice cream
Oh my
from her
goodness.
gigantic refrigerator.
Oh yeah.
Just being completely oblivious.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so we want to talk about this. So this was last Thursday. Jay was like, "Are you going to hand out anything to the congregation?" And I had not planned on it.
What were you gonna do?
I was going to have my own notes
You're just
and
gonna-
just
okay.
walk through something like this, but
Yeah.
I hadn't planned on.
Right. I knew, given the
Typing
nature
stuff up.
of how our meetings go,
Yeah.
that they're gonna need something
Yeah.
to take home.
All right.
You know. With the
No, it
kid.
was a good call. It was just a kind of a last minute call.
Surprise.
Yeah.
So this is by no means exhaustive. I was just kind of writing this as I was brainstorming.
Uh-huh.
I asked you guys for some ideas, and you weren't super helpful.
We
So a
just-
lot of this is
Anything that has ism at the end of it, that's what we threw
right.
out there for you.
yeah. So this is 6 reasons why
Well,
George thinks that.
So I'll try to clarify, just like if they're listening, in a broad sense.
Yeah.
What it comes down to me is really trust,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So we're not a denomination. We're a group or a collection of churches that cooperate with each other. And the purpose is supposed to be for missions.
Right.
Right. So there's got to be some organizational structure in there.
right.
And what we've observed is the SBC has become so bloated. It literally is like the federal government.
Yeah.
It's
So the way it really is supposed to run like the country
Right.
is supposed to, the founders originally intended for it to run.
sure.
It's supposed to be that America is supposed to be state run.
Yeah.
Right.
And then even local beyond
Yeah,
like
so
underneath
it's
the
supposed
state.
to be people that just
With local
just the
governance.
citizens are supposed to be governing.
Yeah.
We're supposed to govern ourselves.
Uh-huh.
The SBC is supposed to be that way also. It's
Right.
supposed to be local churches, congregational, they govern themselves, and they have freely entered into an agreement together in order to promote mission work.
And so you
But
have
the same thing that's happened in America has happened in the SBC is now, instead of it being the people running the show, it's top down.
it is. So there should be local associations that
Mhm.
are heavily involved with each other
Right.
and doing missions together. And that's not really the case anymore.
No,
It's the same thing you see in like the local governments of
Right.
the state.
Mm-hmm.
More power is given to the state, and even then, there's not so much.
Yeah.
You don't have so much control of what's happening or input. It's pushed down from the federal government
Mm-hmm.
through money,
Right.
incentives, and the same thing is exactly the same thing happening in the SBC.
It's, I mean, I guess we shouldn't be super surprised by it. It's disheartening because we've got professing believers, but it's all about money. It's all about it's about money and power and influence. And you give the churches come together, and we have the cooperative program. It's the churches give to kind of one pot.
right.
But who controls that pot?
Yeah,
And whoever controls the pot basically gets to steer the ship.
it's the oligarchy,
Mm,
and so the problem is, I don't trust them anymore.
right.
I don't trust them to make the right decisions, to have integrity,
Mm-hmm.
to be honorable, to even be honest.
Yeah.
So when the trust is gone, like you can't just keep giving your money away,
Right.
and you really can't, in any integrity, say we're Southern Baptist,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't give any money to you. And that's the
Yeah.
place we're at. We suspended all of our giving.
Mm-hmm. Several months ago. I think it
yeah,
was August, wasn't it?
I think
So we told the church, the elders have made the decision to suspend the giving.
Mm-hmm.
We'll present to you if we want to stay or not. But here's what we know is we can't give any more because we don't trust what's happening with
Yeah.
the money.
Right. Now there's a lot of churches and organizations within the SBC that have made the opposite decision. We're going to stay and we're going to fight. But for us, we don't think that it's really a fight worth expending time and resources into, because it's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fight.
And to be in the fight, you have to give. If you want to send messengers,
Right.
you have to give money.
Yeah.
And so you're stuck in this deal. Well, if I give the money, what are they going to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to plant some churches and install women pastors like they have been doing secretly.
Mm.
You know.
All right, so we're getting into the list. So maybe it would be helpful just to walk through the list.
Okay,
We don't
let's
have to
do it.
spend a lot of time on
Each one.
each of these. Again, this is not exhaustive. We've talked about things on the podcast that I didn't include here. Just go back through the list of podcasts on YouTube and look for the ones that talk about the SBC or Ed Litton.
The
and
categories
you'll
though are helpful. These there's 6 categories,
Right.
They're helpful.
Okay.
And we don't even have to go through every sub point on here, but just talk about them.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the first one, and this, I didn't really put this in any, again, I was just kind of brainstorming as I wrote this down. It's not like this is the worst one and it works its way down. It's just kind of scattershot. The first one is unrepentant pragmatism.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that.
Well, what do we mean by pragmatism? Let's explain it.
Whatever works, whatever produces the results,
Do
that's good.
Yeah, the ends justify.
You
the
know,
means.
we've talked a lot about Life Church, and Life Church isn't SBC, but Craig Groeschel has said something that is the epitome of pragmatism. And we haven't talked about it. Every time we've talked about Life Church, I've forgotten that he's said this. We will do everything short of sin to win people.
Mm-hmm.
That's pragmatism.
Right.
For one, who's the one defining what sin is? He doesn't give like, here's the line. And that's a bad way for Christians to live anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll get right up close to the line. As long as we're not sinning, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we're called to be. But that's pragmatism.
Yeah.
Let's do whatever we can as long as we don't think it's a sin. As long as we get the results that we're looking for.
Yeah, that's how you end up with like the guy in Texas who is SBC
Mm-hmm.
that has like a bed put on top of his church and is laying in the bed with his wife.
Ed Young,
Yeah,
Ed
Ed Young Jr.
Yeah, laying in the bed with his wife, promoting his series on on sex and
Uh-huh.
whatnot.
Yeah.
That guy's done like everything under the sun.
Oh yeah,
Get
he's
people.
had. I think he's had a lion on the stage.
I think
he's
so.
driven like a Corvette out on stage. They've had like bikers doing stunts. Yeah, they've done all
And
of
they
it.
and a lot of these guys try to make it sound noble. If one person gets saved as a result of this, it was all worth it.
Right.
No.
Hey, I was considering Jesus, the gospel. It sounded pretty good. Have all my sins taken away, have eternal life.
Yeah,
But I just wasn't quite sure. But when he came out in a Corvette,
that's right.
I knew I had to be a Christian.
When the pastor ate fire.
It's so sad because you've got all these guys that they're like, well, we could preach the word, but we're going to get more people if we bring these pro wrestlers in,
right.
and they talk.
When
for a
the
little
pastor decided to ride a bull. That's when we knew
yeah.
this is for us. Yeah,
bit.
it's
The church is jumping the shark here,
well, don't give them any ideas.
right?
Yeah.
But this, I guess we would probably be a lot stronger on this than a lot of people in the SBC because pragmatism really is the fruit of Arminianism.
Mm-hmm.
We have to win the people. They are neutral.
Right.
They could go one way or the other, and we've got to convince them to follow Christ
Mm-hmm.
because their will is free.
Mm-hmm.
But as Reformed, we would say their will is in bondage, and the only thing that's going to set them free is Christ crucified as we preach it through the gospel.
Sure.
And that is a work of God as the Holy Spirit regenerates. So this pragmatism, it doesn't emphasize regeneration.
Right.
It doesn't emphasize depravity. It doesn't. And they'll talk about the Holy Spirit, but it's not. He's not doing an effectual work. It's something that you can, if you feel that tugging on your heart, And so I would say that we're going to push hard back against this, because we would say that's not what the scriptures teach about how someone comes to faith in Christ.
Yeah. And so you have, and I don't even know what unit this would fall under of these six, maybe the pragmatism, because it leads to it, but the numbers, they say all the time we're the largest Protestant. They say they'll use the word denomination when it's convenient, but then they'll say we're not a denomination. But when they're doing lobbying and whatnot, we represent the biggest Protestant denomination in America, 16 million members. And they love to brag about that, and it's a total lie. I have no problem saying that's a lie, because you can look back through the data for years. The first time I checked it was about 10 years ago when I was doing church planning research. SBC is missing every single Sunday, and it's not like one time. It's like a pattern, missing about 10 million people. In reality, the number is about 5 million.
This is so. These are the numbers from the SBC website. This is from 2019. I don't know why they don't have it updated, but they say that there's 47,530 cooperating churches. Total membership, 14,525,579. They do have the number for weekly worship attendance.
They have it?
Uh-huh.
Okay. What is it?
5,250,230.
Yeah. See, so there's, and that's not,
you're missing you're missing 9 million people.
Yeah. So what do we have members in our church now? Right around 90 adults?
Members is about 80. I think it's 81 maybe.
Okay.
Something like that. I'd have to go back and look.
So it'd be like, well, this is the norm for a lot of churches, not the norm for our church, because our members come to church. Shocker.
Right.
Crazy, right? But if it was like every Sunday we had only 40 people here.
Yeah.
And we kept telling people,
it'd be worse than that.
Yeah,
I mean, this isn't even half.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't even 50%.
I remember being
this isn't even a passing grade here.
I remember being part of a traditional Southern Baptist church. We had a little over 400 in the membership. I think our worship average was around 80 to 90 people.
So 400 people, and you had 800 present.
No.
Or 80 present.
I was like, wait, what?
Wait a second. Where are you getting your numbers?
Using that new math?
480?
So we had 400 on the membership, but weekly we were only seeing about 80.
Yeah, that's normal for a Southern Baptist church.
Oh,
That's the sad thing. So you always have less people worshiping than you have members. We always have more people worshiping every Sunday than we have members present. So we have like 100, sometimes up to maybe 130, and 80 or so members.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Are you bragging on your church? Yes, I am. but all glory to God, because it's God's done it. All we did was just follow church discipline.
Preach the word and
can you believe that church would follow church discipline?
Okay. It doesn't hurt that we have like 50 kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got
that's an anomaly. That's an anomaly in Southern Baptist churches also.
Yeah.
A church our size I'm not exaggerating. We have about 50 kids. I've got a list.
That's no
of the
exaggeration.
Kids, and there's about 50 kids at our church. That in itself is an anomaly in a church our size in the SBC, where you walk into a church our size around here, and you're going to be greeted by 60-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, God's been good to our church. But again, and I think people think it's like, oh, you're taking shots at my church because we do this pragmatic stuff. I mean, not taking a shot intentionally. I'm telling you, literally all that we have ever done to grow this church is preach the gospel and have church and encourage people to talk to their friends and families and do evangelism. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, we don't have programs. We don't have a youth group.
No.
And we've grown from 18 to whatever we are now.
Which, I mean, look in the scriptures. You don't see God pushing pragmatism. God's evangelism plan is the church.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, what do we look around and we see just the opposite happening. It's like, here's how you're going to save your friends. Bring them to the block party we're going to have at the church.
Yeah.
No, go wherever you're at and preach the gospel.
And this isn't unique to the Southern Baptist Convention. This is just typical of Western evangelical churches.
Yeah.
Is pragmatism, but we see it. I mean, as Southern Baptists, we see it in our convention, and just hour and a half from here is Falls Creek, and you see it every summer. This pragmatism that's being pushed.
Oh yeah.
The numbers here: total baptisms reported by Southern Baptist churches 235,748.
That's a
pretty high number.
That is.
For only having 5 million in weekly worship.
It should go up that number every year.
It should go up that number. Yeah, we should be increasing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to offset for deaths,
right?
Which is probably in the SBC a pretty significant amount, I would guess, because they seem to be. It seems to be now an older denomination.
They keep that on the rolls, though, Jay.
You stay on the rolls after you die.
You do in a lot of churches.
Yeah. It's like the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
You keep voting even after you're dead.
Yeah.
All right, you want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
All right, so that was pragmatism. The second one I put was unethical and untrustworthy leaders.
Yeah.
And I think this is maybe the longest. No, the next one's the longest, but I have quite a few bullet points on here, and I probably could have kept going.
Well, there's just a lot.
We've talked about Ed Litton so much on here.
He's like God's perfect example.
He is.
He's like, this stuff has been stewing now for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's probably longer, but I've been SBC for 10 years, so I've been paying attention that long.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, there's a lot of shady stuff, like unethical, and people just give it a pass.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you guys want a good example? And like, God's like, here's Ed Litton.
I like what A.D. Robles has said on his podcast when the plagiarism first came out. He said, Southern Baptist, this is a gift from God. The bar has been set about as low as it can be set.
Right.
All you got to do is call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what have the leadership done?
Nothing.
Nope.
Provided cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's
Like
still
what could be more obvious than preaching other people's sermons?
And then,
plagiarism is so blatantly wrong in the academic world. Why is it that the leadership is defending Ed Litton and he makes these lame excuses and no one calls him out for it?
And then lying about it and like giving multiple reasons, explanations.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody were to get up and say, this is one of the most powerful sermons I've ever heard in my life. It's by Charles Spurgeon. I'm going to preach this sermon to you, but just know it's Charles Spurgeon's. I don't have a problem with that. You know, that would be a very odd thing to happen.
I mean, I wouldn't like it, but at least you're not plagiarizing it.
At least you're not presenting it off as your own idea.
Yeah, I don't think
I
don't think that that's what a pastor should do. Charles Spurgeon is not the pastor of Christ Fellowship Church.
No,
so he's not. He didn't have our people in mind. So that's why I wouldn't want someone to do that. Well, but would I say that's a sin? Maybe if you were doing it every week. Yeah. Because that's showing that you're not studying yourself. You're not being the pastor of the church that God has. Right. You're not pastoring the flock that is among you.
Right.
But
there's nothing unethical about it.
Yeah, there's nothing unethical if you're saying this is
nothing unethical or sinful about it. That's not what he did.
No,
he didn't say, "Hey guys, I'm going to preach y'all J.D. Greer sermons." He presented these ideas as if they were his ideas, his illustrations about himself. And then when he got caught, he told like 3 different stories about why it happened.
Yeah,
and then scrubbed the website to cover up the rest of the evidence. And people are just okay. But this would be a disqualifying thing for an elder. Like, you've got to step down from being an elder now.
Right.
Not only did you do this, then you lied.
Right.
Like you're done. You're done now.
Yeah.
You know. But he's still going strong, and he's like representing all of the churches.
Mm-hmm.
That's just. I mean, that's. he's like the culmination of it.
Yeah, there's a long line, right? I mean, we've talked about Russell Moore. I mean, as soon as he left the ERLC, he immediately went to a Paedo Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what kind of convictions did the head of this SBC institution hold?
Right.
I mean, we've talked about the ERLC,
Yeah.
J.D. Greer, and not just his wokeness, but his God whispers about sexual sins.
Mm-hmm.
Beth Moore, the stuff with the executive committee. I mean, no one even knows what's going on anymore.
The cronyism.
The cronyism. I mean, the way that the leaders at the convention this past summer were just super condescending to anybody that was disagreeing with them. The seminary presidents, they signed their statement saying we don't think that CRT is compatible with Christianity, and then you've got people in the seminaries that are teaching CRT. Who are we supposed to trust?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, there's video evidence of people at Southern Seminary teaching critical race theory.
Right.
Matt Hall, the provost, he said, "I'm a racist. I'll always be a racist." Like, that's critical race theory.
Yeah.
Mohler can go on his podcast and he can blast critical race theory, but it's going on at the school.
Right.
Hey, these are not the leaders that we want to follow. We don't want to follow a leader that says one thing and then does another.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we want.
Right.
Danny Aiken, he signed he made a statement against critical race theory, but he still uses the language. And all you got to do is look at his Twitter feed and you can see this stuff. It's all over the place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty clear. It's been ongoing for a while. I mean, when what's his name could do his fire engine stuff and he got away with it, Ronnie Floyd, and nobody called him out. And then not only, this is kind of when I knew something was really wrong was when Mohler nominated Ronnie Floyd.
Yeah.
I was like, how? Because back then in my mind, like, Mohler was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's conservative,
right?
Reformed, openly, not a secret.
Right.
And I'm like, how do you nominate Ronnie Floyd?
Mm-hmm.
This dude and this is not a conspiracy. Fire engine,
right?
Truck baptismal. The kids would go down and confetti would shoot out and sirens would go off. And like, so in the summer camp, every single kid in the Midwest that went to this place is getting baptized.
Yeah.
It was enough so much. It was so much so that my leadership professor called his church and said, "You're going to take all those kids from my church off of your records," because the parents found out when they were mad.
Yeah.
And then Mohler nominates this guy to be the president.
Right.
And then he becomes the president.
You've got Steve Gaines. He was the president for 2 years, and he preaches money curse theology from his church.
Right.
You want to know why your kids have runny noses? Because you're not giving the tithe.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Your car's breaking down.
Yeah, you can find this stuff. It's not, unless they've scrubbed. You never know anymore.
No kidding.
But, the internet's forever, so you can find it. You can find this stuff.
Yeah, so if you... that's incredibly unethical. You're going to tell people if you don't give a tenth, a tithe, which isn't mandated in the New Testament anyway, but if you're going to tell them, if you don't do that, God's going to curse you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not manipulative.
Yeah.
That's like con artist level stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of course, once you get the big money and you give the big money, that's when you give the big money to the SBC, that's when you start getting put on. When you start getting nominated for things, and you start moving up the ladder, and then one day, after you give enough, then you'll be nominated for something big.
That's why it's so hard to infiltrate this stuff. Man, the counter to what we're saying is, well, why don't you run? Why don't you serve more? And the problem is, you don't see guys like us in little churches moving up the ladder. You just don't.
Right. And that's why
go back and look at the size of the churches of the guys who are the president.
Well, and this feeds another problem. which is pastors using the church to move up the ladder. And to move up, you've got to leave your small church. So you may have a faithful ministry and be doing incredible gospel ministry, even influencing your area. But if you want to move up, you've got to jump to a bigger church. And so pastors, here's the way they go. And I'm telling you how it happens. Because how long, like you got a little town here called Cache, right? And how many pastors have we seen come through there?
Yeah.
How many?
Man.
Like there's been like 4 since I've been here.
Yeah.
I've been here 6 years. They've had 4 pastors, I think. And the reason why is because you can't stay here and have any influence. So they come here, they're like, okay, this is just a stepping stone. And then they move to another bigger church. And then they'll stay at that church for about 4 years, medium church. And then if they make connections and they get that church to give money, then they'll make connections. People are like, hey, there's this bigger church opening. I'll put a word in for you. Now you're at a bigger church, more money given. And so there's this ladder.
Yeah, it's not often that you see a pastor leave his church and go to a smaller church.
No.
I'm sure it happens,
Sure.
but I'm sure that I've never seen it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Why would you leave? Just like, I can't, it doesn't compute for me. Like you move somewhere, you have your family here, you're raising your kids, you have all these relationships, everything's fine. There's no problems. Bigger church calls you. You're going to go minister in a place you've never been. Like the incentive is money and influence.
I always respected my dad for something he said. He's always served in pretty small churches, and he said, "I've always wanted to pastor a big church. This one, like his goal was to evangelize and grow the church he's at. But for so many guys, their goal is, well, I'll just go to that bigger church so I can get whatever I can out of it."
Now, of course, not all the pastors in the Southern Baptist Convention are that way,
Right.
But the ones who want to be able to change things or like be involved in leadership, you can't do it staying at a small church. You've got to get to a place where there's a lot of money from your church going into the Southern Baptist Convention.
Right.
It's like pay to play.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. All right. We could talk about the
next one.
We could talk about the untrustworthy leaders forever.
The third one was promotion of false teachers and teachings. So,
where do we even start? We need to just kind of narrow it down to, because we could just, there's so much we could talk about.
Yeah. The one he's still SBC as far as I know, Stephen Furtick.
As far as I know, he's still affiliated with North Carolina? Is it North Carolina?
Maybe both, because he has campuses everywhere.
I can't remember. He was at least still affiliated with the state SBC.
Okay.
Yeah, Stephen Furtick. So Elevation Church, which a couple of years ago we just went through one of his sermons,
right,
and showed it how
we talked about him.
He's talking just
we talked about him a couple of weeks ago with his God doesn't call you to change.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But people, his stuff is still accepted in SBC churches.
Yes. So his books are sold in Lifeway stores. Sun Stands Still was his first book, his first big book. You remember that? That's what made him kind of popular in the book scene, selling in Lifeway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That and music coming from his church.
Elevation
sung
music.
in so many Southern Baptist churches.
Yep.
Andy Stanley.
I don't think Andy Stanley is SBC.
He's not?
I don't think.
I'm not sure on that one.
It's kind of hard to see the affiliation of some of these churches. You look at their website and it's like, what?
Yeah, a lot of them are.
Guys?
A lot of them are front.
I'm pretty sure Andy Stanley is non-denominational.
Okay.
But we know that Rick Warren is SBC.
Rick Warren is SBC.
I was just reading a book yesterday that was talking about Rick Warren, and when Pope Francis came to America, a couple of years ago, Rick Warren, he was actually quoted with like this, just lavishing praise on Pope Francis. Do you remember that? He called him our Pope.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Well, they openly ordained some women pastors back right before the convention in the summer.
Yep.
And
they weren't disfellowshipped.
No, not disfellowshipped. You've got well, you can't walk into a Lifeway anymore, but you can look at Lifeway's website and you can see some of the stuff that they still promote. They still have, I believe, they still have the Circle Maker,
I think so. Well,
which that's just pagan. That's just paganism.
It's witchcraft.
For the longest time, Lifeway was carrying like Rob Bell, like his Numa videos. They were carrying all the heaven tourism books until finally enough churches spoke, finally some churches spoke out, and then they removed them. But then you've got all these others that they're still being sold.
T.D. Jakes books, they used to sell those.
They used to. I don't think they do anymore, but I'm pretty sure they sell Joyce Meyer. I could be wrong, but I think they do.
So,
but I mean, it's money talks.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the money. But then we've got the promotion of critical race theory. I mean, it's an analytical tool. Right. And anybody that was questioning it at the convention, they were just talked down to.
Right.
And they're treated like racist.
Yeah.
Because they don't want a Marxist based ideology even as an analytical tool. Like, what do we need this as an analytical tool for? What do atheists have to tell the church that God's word doesn't already tell us?
Right.
Yeah. And then the we talked about Ed Litton and his unity events,
right?
That his church is a part of with that organization, and they have these nights with Roman Catholics.
You know, we hear about the one with Ed Litton. We know about the one that happened in our association.
Right.
How much more do you think this is happening that we're not hearing
all
about
over
it?
the place?
Oh yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need a reformation.
Absolutely.
Because Protestant Baptists have forgotten that Rome is preaching a different gospel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, and it's rampant. It's everywhere. You know, I told you about my friend who was having issues with this church, and they brought in this mediator. DOM met with him and this lawyer. The DOM presented this man who's Roman Catholic as this guy's a good guy. He's a solid Christian. He's our brother.
Yeah.
He's Roman Catholic. And Robert, who grew up Roman Catholic, like for real, knows all about it, and left that, got saved, and became a Christian. He's like, how are you the DOM? You know what I mean?
Because you knew a guy.
Yeah, like how are you the DOM, man? They have a false gospel.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's everywhere though, dude. This is not like a spot thing here or there.
Yeah.
It's blanket everywhere. There's
how many Southern Baptists do you think, even in leadership, admire Pope Francis? Because he pushes that social justice.
Right.
Like he's very left leaning. How many in the leadership do you think that Pope Francis is a good guy?
Probably a lot.
I imagine so. Yeah.
More than I want to.
You don't want to know those numbers.
Golly.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people sitting in the pews probably think that Francis is okay?
Yeah.
We need to be bolder.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to be jerks. Though Martin Luther was a jerk sometimes, and he got quite a bit accomplished. But,
sometimes. Sometimes, huh?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, we don't need to be jerks about it, but we need to be really clear out of love for the purity of the church and out of the love for Roman Catholics. We need to be very clear that there's a line that divides us. We are not worshiping the same God. We have a different religion. If we really believe that we are saved by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, then we have to love our Roman Catholic friends and neighbors enough to say,
we're not going to stand on stage with you and present this idea that we are one church with you.
Right. Yeah. Because it's not true.
And the fact that that's allowed and goes on just tells you that when they use the catchphrase "gospel above all," like they always do, at the national level, gospel above all. Yeah, it's just a word. It's just words. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, you know that because they never define it.
Yeah, it's nothing. But it's what I'm saying is if you're okay with, hey, we'll just stand on stage with people who have another gospel.
Yeah,
it means nothing.
Yep.
So.
All right, fourth reason, unwise spending of money.
This goes back
Oh,
to what
man.
I was saying earlier. I just don't trust them
Yeah.
because we've already laid out their unethical. I think proven that they lack integrity.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of waste.
If
There's a lot of waste of money.
the president of the SBC is willing to steal someone's sermon, should we be giving him our money? Like, if a thief is going to steal something, I mean, what's to keep him from stealing your money?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that he's embezzling and pocketing stuff, but it could mean that he's using the money in a way that we don't want our money being used.
Well, there's a lot of that. I think, obviously,
Yeah.
you've got the ELRC. What is their
Yeah.
purpose for existence?
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's a good question because they should have been like front and center in the battle
Right.
last summer when the government was abusing churches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they should have. I mean, John MacArthur's church is not SBC, but Baptist. I mean, MacArthur's Baptistic.
And yet he accomplished more than all of the ERLC.
Yeah, and the
did.
ERC is completely silent.
Yeah.
And instead, you've got Jonathan Lehman from 9 Marks, which is an SBC. Not funded, but it's an organization that's affiliated with the SBC, pushing back against MacArthur and encouraging people not to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
the ERC, instead of speaking out against the abuse against the churches in California or the abuses of churches in Canada that is still going on,
They didn't say anything.
they didn't
about
say
it,
anything. They didn't say anything about James Coates when he was arrested for having a church service.
Yeah.
Like, what is the ERLC supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
I thought that's what they were supposed to be doing, but instead, go back and look. Go back to Facebook and look at the ERLC back in the summer of 2020.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you'll see Russell Moore doing videos, not about how the church should be free to worship, but he's telling us what his favorite books are.
Yeah. Or he did one on like, do pets go to heaven?
Oh, brother.
A couple of years ago, he did the one about aliens.
Yeah. James Coates got arrested. Russell Moore's like, here's my response. Do your pets go to heaven? That's exactly what was on my mind all week.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Right.
dropping that video.
Yeah. The resolution that was passed at the convention on abolishing abortion,
Mm-hmm.
just simply calling abortion murder, like the church should do.
Right.
What does the ERLC do? They write articles
Against
opposing it.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, here's the ethics and religious liberty.
Goodness.
Like, it's in the name, right?
Right.
Like, the two issues that they should be promoting are literally the two issues that they were opposing.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still giving money to them. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Yeah. I don't want my money going to the ERLC. I would just as soon see it disbanded.
And then you have NAM and their church planting.
Uh-huh.
I think their church planting assessments might have gotten a little better, but man,
I know they put out a statement saying that they did not promote women pastors.
Uh-huh.
But again, it's one thing to publicly
Say
say
something.
something. What are you doing about these churches that have women pastors? And this isn't conspiracy theory. It's not us saying, well, there's rumors. There's video evidence that there are North American Mission Board funded church plants that have women pastors. We're not talking about the kids director. We're talking about front and center. Next up is you'll hear from our female pastor
Right.
preaching a sermon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I watched some of these videos.
Right. Yeah.
And this is cooperative program money. This is the little old lady in small town Oklahoma. She just wants to support missions, and this money is going to things that she probably doesn't
Mm-hmm.
agree with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't trust their assessment process anyway either. You got to have some type of an assessment process, but
Yeah.
seeing some of the people that have made it through that process and started planting churches,
Yeah.
it's a little suspect,
Mm-hmm.
right? In my mind, your main qualification should be, are you able to handle the Word of God?
Right.
Not
Yeah.
Are
Are you
you-
faithful?
are you an organization planner?
Yeah.
Can you plan events?
Right.
That's what I think. It's more heavily geared toward.
Mm-hmm. Are you a sociologist?
Is your theology biblical?
Mm-hmm.
It's coming back to the pragmatism here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you meet the qualifications of an elder pastor?
Right.
It should be heavy on that.
And again, I'm not saying that there are no good North American Mission Board church planners. I'm sure that there are. I'm sure there are faithful people
Sure
that
there
are
Well, of
that
course,
are in
yes.
places that they're unsung.
Yeah.
But what you guys are saying, I think that the weakness of North American Mission Board and the International Mission Board is that it is kind of relieving the churches
Mhm.
of their duty. The
Yes.
churches should be the ones that are sending out these missionaries, not just giving their stamp of approval and all the training and all the
Yes.
sending out and all the funding, all the accountability is taken away from the local church and it's put on this organization. I know why they did it. I know that you pull your money together and you can accomplish more than just,
Well,
one church trying to do
sure.
all of this. We can do more, but the responsibility, the onus is supposed to be on the local church.
Mhm.
And what these organizations have gotten so big that all the accountability is gone.
Right.
Like I don't know any North American Mission Board missionaries by name at all.
Mhm.
That's not good.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same with the IMB.
It is. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Don't know who the missionaries are. Never talked to them.
Mm-hmm.
Never even had a phone call with them.
I don't know what they're doing.
There's no accountability. Accountability for what they're teaching.
What's this missionary in Argentina doing?
Right.
Don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah. That's
But we should just send money to them
Mm-hmm.
because they're an SBC missionary.
Unwise
That's
spending
unwise.
of money.
Yeah,
Unwise
it's just
spending of money.
unwise. And you can't even find the salaries for leadership.
Well, you looked up earlier how much money comes in. So tell everyone how much money comes in, because you're going to be surprised if you're listening. You will be surprised how much money comes in every year.
Down here, yeah,
somewhere around $500 million.
Yeah. So this was from May of 2020 is where this number came from. And again, this is from the SBC website. The cooperative program giving, just in general, was $462,299,010.12.
That's a lot of money.
Designated. So designated is someone writing a check and putting in the little memo. I want this to go to IMB. $192,900,851. And then you've got the Annie Armstrong North American Mission Board Easter offering. It was $49.3 million, and the Lottie Moon Christmas offering was $159.5 million.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
and I bet the majority of it's tied up in personnel cost.
We don't know.
Like,
who knows?
And I don't mean like church planter
right.
and missionaries.
Right.
I mean like back at home, like running things in their offices.
Yeah,
that's my guess. If it's anything like the state of Oklahoma, because that's how it is in Oklahoma, right? The majority of
we get so we just did our budget presentation. Parker just did the budget presentation at our members meeting that we're going to vote on for next year. And you look at the budget and it's broken down into its very detailed pieces. So everyone in the church can look at that paper and say, I know how much George makes. Like here's how much his salary is. You go to the state convention and you'll see the budget, and the line item is the executive director's office. And that's the lump. You've got the lump number. How much does the executive director make?
No one knows.
Don't know. What are his benefits? Don't know. Does he have a travel salary? Does he have does he have a book allowance? Don't know. How much does his secretary make? It's lumped in there. You don't know. I do know. I think the last time I looked for Oklahoma, it was close to $500,000 a year for executive. I think I could be off. But again, what's the breakdown here? I don't know what this is.
Yeah. How many secretaries?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Probably 2. My guess is 2.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
not good. That's not transparent.
But even if you look at it though, and you break it all down,
Yeah.
the majority of the money is locked up in personnel. Now they've recently
It's
they've
it's
been
75%, I believe, of the annual budget for the Baptist convention is salary.
yeah,
That's cooperative program money.
right.
So you're giving your money. You think that it's going to missions. 75% of every dollar is going to paying people's salaries.
Yeah.
I understand you got to pay people's salaries, but it's gotten so big that you're paying too much in salaries. There's too much. There's too much stuff.
You're paying the people to sit around and come up with like,
Hey, tell us about
Evangicube and
False
stuff.
Creek. You showed it to me. You showed it to me yesterday.
Oh my goodness! So I was on Facebook, and someone that's associated with False Creek posted a picture.
You can
of,
name names, Philip. It's all right.
Okay, and yeah, Andy Harrison.
Just name names, man.
I'm among friends.
And what does Andy Harrison do?
So he's like the head of False Creek now.
Okay.
He used to be like the head of the youth department for the BGCO, and now he's been promoted up. And they just had a picture of like a prototype board game that they were making for False Creek. And he's like, "Hey, do you think your students would enjoy playing this? What should we name it?" And I just wanted to comment, a waste of cooperative program dollars is a great name for the game. But but you have all these type of things. If you go to the BGCO annual meeting, walk through the exhibition hall, you can stock up on all your office supplies.
Oh,
for the next year.
we talked about all the swag that you can get.
Absolutely. And it's cooperative program dollars.
Right.
And over again, you can drive in Oklahoma City. I think it's on like North May. Go by the Baptist building.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Oh yeah.
So
Go inside.
Yeah. Check it out. It's quite the building. It's very nice.
Yeah.
But and here's something else the BGCO does. Every year they'll send out like a prayer guide for missionaries.
Yeah.
For Oklahoma Baptist. You open it up and like the first one's the executive director.
Right.
I'm thinking, okay,
Yeah.
missionary, he's sitting in a nice office,
Right.
getting paid all this stuff. I know of local church pastors I would consider more missionary.
Yeah. There are. So this is a calendar that goes out every year for so you can pray for missionaries. And like you said, there's the executive director, there's like the president of OBU. Like these are not missionaries. Like these are guys that make 6-figure salaries and are not doing mission work. There are, for the North American Mission Board, there are 3,057 domestic missionaries. Now, they didn't break that down into full-time and part-time. Most of the North American Mission Board missionaries are bivocational. These people just kind of get overlooked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I
Like
guarantee
there's actual missionaries we could be praying for, and instead you spend the month of January praying for Todd Fisher up at the Baptist building. Pray for Todd Fisher, but don't call him a missionary.
Come on.
Yeah, he's more like a CFO. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not a missionary.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
That's like calling the general manager of a baseball team a baseball player.
That's a good analogy.
Like he's not playing on the field.
Right.
He's managing stuff in his office.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. Let's look at number 5. The 5th reason: local association.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say they hate us.
I always tell
We
people
laugh
we got
about
the
it now,
scarlet
yeah.
letter C.
I mean,
on us.
we can laugh about it now because we haven't had any contact with them in 3 years.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, they openly call Calvinism heresy.
Yeah.
Like they call us a cult. That's not one of the guys from the from one of the associational churches called you a militant Calvinist.
Yeah.
Remember
And so
that
I had
several
him,
years ago?
Yeah, he was saying bad stuff about me.
Yeah.
And because I really avoid controversy and conflict at all costs, I went ahead and scheduled a meeting with him. So it was a fun meeting. Had a meeting with him, had another pastor there present because, I figured he'd not tell the truth about how the meeting went. Yeah, and so I just asked him, I said, call me a militant Calvinist. I didn't say that. Yeah, you did. This person told me you said it last week.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about me behind my back? Well, I've just never met anybody like you. I'm like, what do you mean?
Me neither,
I think we
Jake.
can all say that.
So I asked the question. I said, tell me you call me a militant Calvinist. Now I'll say I'm militant for the gospel.
Yeah.
There you go.
Isn't that what we're supposed to
Absolutely.
be, church militant?
But I asked, I
Exactly.
said, explain, you mean, I said, I think that your problem is that I exist. There's a Calvinist. Tell me how I have tried to spread Calvinism in this association.
Yeah.
Give me one way.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he could give no answer. He gave no answer.
Right. Yeah. They just hate Calvinism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you sat down and said, all right, tell me what Calvinism is, they're going to throw out a bunch of straw men. Like, they're not going to give you an accurate presentation of what we actually believe.
Right.
Probably because they've read books or heard, Paige Patterson or something talk about Calvinism, not because they actually heard a Calvinist or read a Calvinist book.
Sure.
So they hate Calvinism. We could go into all the stuff that happened, 4 years ago when Northwest tried to fire me and what the DOM did there. But it was all related to Calvinism. They actively opposed the Christ Center Churches Conference when we started that up 6 years ago.
Right. And the first conference was on the gospel.
Mhm.
That's something that should be opposed at all costs.
That's
Oh, my
right.
goodness.
Yeah. Telling people,
Yeah.
don't go to that.
Yeah.
Don't want them to hear the gospel. And then their evening of unity with Roman Catholics. And if it couldn't get any worse with, the oneness Pentecostals, the Unitarians that deny the Trinity.
Yeah, but there are some good guys. There's some good guys in the association.
Oh yeah,
I
I could name several guys that I would say, I don't like the way that their church is run, but I wouldn't say that this is not a faithful pastor.
Oh yeah,
Right.
for sure. And I've told people like they don't live anywhere around here.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, and maybe they're not completely on board with, like, our church is done pretty old school, right? Like we have. It'd be a big jump if you came from a pragmatic church to our church.
Yeah.
It's a big.
If you want all the
You're
bells and whistles.
Yeah, you're like jumping into the past. Like, and by the past, I don't mean the '60s.
Yeah.
And so I'll be like, well, if you're looking for someone who just is going to preach the Bible, why don't you just go to church there?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I would recommend people knowing,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not going to oppose you guys,
Right.
because I know you guys are trying to, you're being faithful to the Bible, as you see, as God's called you to do your ministry. I'm not going to oppose you.
Yeah.
And I can't say the same thing our direction.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But there are a lot of really good guys. Some of them, I would say, just have outright animosity toward us.
Oh yeah.
There are others that don't.
Absolutely.
Like, they're cool with us,
Mhm.
and we're definitely cool with them.
Yeah.
But the problem is that, in my mind, is they don't do anything.
Right.
Like, why would we give money to this place when all of the money again goes to the personnel?
It's going to the salary of someone that.
Yeah.
What do they even do?
Right. It's going to the DOM and to the secretaries.
Mhm.
And if it could be shown, I mean, I could even, well, the evening of unity, I can't get past.
Yeah.
Not until there's an open acknowledgement and public repentance
Right.
of that evening of unity. I can't join again. But if that happened, I could join back with them, just to, if we were going to do something, if they're like, hey, we're going to partner together on this day, we're going to the streets and doing evangelism.
Mhm.
I'd be like, right on, let's get it.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
The director of missions has a great opportunity to actually help encourage churches
Oh, yeah.
find out what their needs are. The local churches they give money together. It's the
Mhm.
same thing with the cooperative program. They pool their money together, and they could actually help different churches. I think there are a lot of little churches in this area, and they're struggling to stay afloat. Every business meeting is, all right, what are we going to do to meet the budget? They should be encouraged to do what we did and merge.
Mhm.
Instead of having two little churches that are on the point of dying. They've been on the brink of dying for a decade. Instead, come together. There's more stuff that you can be doing. There's a lot more joy in knowing that your church is not on the brink of closing its doors. The DOM could do all of this stuff. I don't think he is.
Mm.
I don't think he is. But there are so many opportunities for a director of missions. I'm not saying you have to get rid of this position. I'm saying there are things that he could be doing that are actually worth giving money for.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm with you, Jay. I don't think that it's worth giving the money.
Yeah.
Why how are we going to have unity and fellowship with people that call us a cult?
I would say the new guy. I don't know that he would call us a cult.
Yeah.
I think the old one for
Maybe.
sure, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Yeah. So he would be more friendly, I think, in that regard
Yeah.
toward us. I don't know. I mean, he may have called us. He may. I don't
I
know.
have no
I don't
idea.
know
I
that
don't know.
that he has, but I do know that it's come out of
Oh yeah.
in the past. So, not real Baptist. That was another one.
Oh yeah, not real
Yeah.
Baptist. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not a real Baptist
Forgot
if
about
you're a
that one.
Calvinist.
They're not real Baptist there.
That's weird. That's
Yeah.
a weird one.
Which we'll talk about that in a second, because that's one
Uh-huh.
of our questions from one of the church
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
Is like,
right.
what are we even anyway?
All right. The last one is there's just better ways to use our resources.
Yeah.
So here's my case. There are major things wrong with the Southern Baptist Convention, things that cannot be allowed to stand. The critical race theory and the wokeness, women pastors, the pragmatism, those things, they just cannot be allowed to continue. We can't fellowship with people that are promoting this stuff. It's going to be a fight. If we're going to change the course of the convention, it's going to be a fight. And the only way that you can effectively fight is you have to go to the annual meetings and you have to vote.
And you have to
The
give money.
the church has to give
You have to give money
has
to
to
go.
give money and has to send people so that they can vote on these changes, so that they can nominate the right people to be in the places of authority, the ones that can actually change the direction, right? And that's going to take time. You're going to have to take pretty much a week off of work to go to the national convention. It's in Anaheim next year. There's the money. You got to not only get there, but you have to pay to stay somewhere. You got to pay for transportation. You got to pay for food. What could we be doing with that money instead? What could we be doing with that time? And do we really think that even if we got rid of someone like Ed Litton and said, look, this guy is an embarrassment. He shouldn't be a pastor, let alone the president. We get rid of him. You still got the pragmatism that is deeply embedded in the convention.
Yeah.
I liken it to Donald Trump's presidency. He came in saying, I'm going to drain the swamp. And what did he find? It's a lot swampier than and even Republicans are in it, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing with the SBC. You want to come in and change it. It needs a complete renovation. Like we're talking about tear the whole thing down and build it back again.
Right.
And the resources and the time, it's not a fight that I want to invest.
Well, we're proposing to leave, and the church, it'll be up to our congregation,
Right.
and I believe they'll go with us in our decision. We'll see. But if every church were to leave immediately and a $500 million disappeared, things would change immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
Immediately, it would change.
Right.
Because it's gone.
Yeah.
The money's gone.
If they'd quit giving.
And so people would
If
say,
they
well,
just
what
quit
about
giving,
the missionaries?
if they want to stay and just everyone just the well runs dry, it's just immediately cut off.
Yeah. And then people say, well, what about all the missionaries everywhere? And that's what they always hang out.
I
They
know.
guilt trip you with the missionaries.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, if churches would take $500 million a year and just actually use that toward missions
Yeah.
instead of wasting it
Right.
on personnel cost, like using it toward missions, $500 million a year.
Yeah.
How much more effective would all of the churches be at getting the gospel out into the world?
Yep.
I think a lot more.
Yeah.
And so we'll present people. Some of the questions come up like, there's better ways to use it. We'll talk about it. I mean, promoting churches, just getting back to what they used to do, like supporting their own missionaries.
I'm thinking about it right now, and technology has changed from when the cooperative program was first installed. The reason why the cooperative program was put into place in the first place is because missionaries were going to other countries, but then they had to travel back and they had to go around to all the churches fundraising. And you think of the logistics of that. You have to go on a boat. It takes months to get from where you are to the States, and then you have to travel around to these different churches to get support. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to do that. You don't even have to leave your country because of technology.
Right.
Technology has advanced so much that a missionary, even if you have to raise your own funds, you can send out an email to churches asking for support.
You can do a FaceTime call with them.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to try, and even if you have to leave your country to go back to the States, it doesn't take that long to jump on an airplane. Right.
You don't have to be gone
so
forever,
technology has advanced so far that the cooperative program is not the only way to support missions. That's the way that it's
right.
The Southern Baptist Convention. You listen to some of the people talk about they gush over the cooperative program. They act like everyone else isn't doing missions. We're the ones who are doing mission work. Everyone else is not doing mission work.
Here's what I'll tell you.
That is naive at best.
Anybody who thinks that what they need to do is take a trip out to John MacArthur's church. That one church has done, and I can't even believe how much mission works they have done.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. Like obviously they don't have the numbers, but I would say their effectiveness is profound. Like they have planted seminaries in countries that don't have seminaries to train pastors, right? To be trained in their own language and to go out and start church planting movements.
Yeah.
That's been done by a single church. It's amazing. Yeah. And incredibly effective, and probably much more being a better steward with money.
Probably healthier than a lot of the churches that are being planted.
Well, listen to this. I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I did was get a hold of a guy who's going through the IMB process, getting ready to be sent out to the mission field. In fact, I believe he got, they call it commissioned or whatever, maybe this last one.
Okay.
I'm not going to reveal names. But I wanted to know, could we leave like the SBC, but just give money to the IMB? Like I'm trying to figure out, is that a better use of our money? And so just talked to him about it. And he said, well, all the problems that you see and observe, like he's kind of in our camp theologically, he said they're all in the IMB. Yeah. So it really depends on what region you go to, because I guess these regions are managed by people who may have been there, 15, 20 years. Yeah. And that region will take on the flavor of whoever's managing it. So there's one region in Asia, and I think I don't know which one it's actually called, but it's the one where India is. Okay. And they reported something like 2,000 churches started in this time period. It's like 1 or 2 years. And so he said, I did some digging on that. And what I wanted to find out is, like, are these churches meeting our criteria, what we say a church is? Like, they have an elder, right? Like, congregation, like they meet regularly. Like, there's this certain criteria they have. Right. And so what he found out is that they're calling them churches is, like, say we get 20 people to do a Bible study. Okay. It'll start like that. Well, that's a church. Okay. Now, if I can then train you're my friend, to do the same thing I just did with my 20, they'll call that a church when you do your 20 in this Bible study. Yeah. So they're calling these Bible studies of gathered local friends churches. Okay. And of course, that number will be reported back and called out at the annual meeting as we planted 2,000 churches. Right. So what he was trying to get at and tell the guy is, like, if what you're reporting is true, which obviously it's not, this is the greatest church planting movement in the history of mankind. Legit. Yeah. This is like the Great Awakening. Right. And it's just fudging the terminology, fudging the numbers, because the little old lady, like you said, will hear, oh my goodness, I've got to keep giving my money. And a lot of these people, honestly, what happens, some of these older people that grown up SBC, they're SBC their whole life, when they die, they'll leave their money to the SBC. Oh, yeah. Like a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And it just keeps fueling this machine.
It's encouraged by Guidestone to, they'll help you put together your will if you will leave. I don't know what percentage of your money to the SBC. Right.
Yeah, and Oklahoma Baptist, what was it, the foundation? I forget what they call it now.
Yeah,
but they do the free will and stuff.
Free will.
Oh,
you're gonna trigger us
I do
over
your
here.
will for free. There we go. Oh my goodness. Can't trigger you guys.
That's right. All right. So those are the 6 reasons why we, the elders at Christ Fellowship Church, are recommending to our church that we leave the SBC. And there, we probably could say more, but again, I think those are pretty strong reasons, in my opinion. Now, I might be biased because I wrote it, but it's but those are the reasons why I am not comfortable being in the Southern Baptist Convention, and we talked about this. Man, we've been Southern Baptist. We grew up in Southern Baptist churches. Your dad was a music minister.
Yeah, I tell people I've been Southern Baptist since I was a fetus.
Yeah,
literally my whole life.
I mean, my parents met in a Southern Baptist church.
Yeah, mine did too.
Yeah. So this kind of is a segue into the first question. So I wrote these questions down, Jay. I don't know if you probably got
I've got them right here. I pulled them up. Yeah.
I wrote them down and kind of put some of them together and jotted down some of my answers. The first question was from your wife. What took so long?
Yeah.
And I know she's kind of being tongue in cheek with that. Yeah. But
yeah.
I think it's a. I think
she's heard me yapping about this for about 10 years now.
About time. Yeah.
Right. But I think that is a legitimate question to ask. What took so long? Mm-hmm. And I think I mean there's some sentimentality behind it. I mean I'm not gleefully leaving the denomination that I grew up in. I mean I got saved in a Southern Baptist church. I felt called to the ministry in a Southern Baptist church, went to a Southern Baptist college, Southern Baptist seminary. I've only served in Southern Baptist churches. I told the congregation on Sunday night, I've taught a Sunday school class on the cooperative program, explaining like, the history behind it and the structure of it, and why we do it this way, and where your money goes, and all of that. I never got asked to do that Sunday school class again. But I've been Southern Baptist through and through. And I know that's the same with you.
Absolutely.
So this is not a decision that we wanted to just rush through.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a whole question of identity. And we'll get to that. The last question that we got on our members page was this. This is a question of identity. Who are we? If we're not Southern Baptists, who are we? And so this is not a decision that we should take lightly. It's not one that we should just ram through. That's why, again, we emphasize this is not the decision of the elders of the church. It's a decision of the congregation. Yeah. And as much as I love this church, and they follow us and they trust us and they believe us, but I don't want them to just say, well, the elder said we should do this, so we should do it. Well, I want them to think through this. I want them to think through these issues. I want them to pray about it. And if they disagree and they have a different opinion, I want to hear it. I don't want them to just say, we'll do what the elders want us to do. I want to hear, if there is any disagreement, I want to hear it.
A lot of them grew up like you guys did in the SBC. Quite a few of them. I was saved in Southern Baptist Church after redeploying from Iraq in my mid-20s. And during that time, I wanted to know, like, why should I become a part of this church, or should I? And I discovered the conservative resurgence, and I really thought, like, I remember thinking to myself after reading the history and looking at other denominations, how they've unfolded over the past century and the liberalism and things. And I remember telling Angie, like, oh, I'm going to be Southern Baptist, because Southern Baptists will literally die on the Bible.
Yeah.
And I was like excited, so I joined because I wanted to. I was excited about it. Got called to the ministry there. Went to a Southern Baptist seminary. I could have gone to any seminary I wanted, George, because I had Montgomery GI Bill.
Right.
I could have spent my money anywhere.
Yeah.
That would have accepted me in my enrollment, and I chose to go to Southern Baptist Seminary.
Yeah.
And then I became an elder in a Southern Baptist church. Moved down here, replanted this church. They didn't want to be part of the Southern Baptist Convention because they had such a bad experience there, and they pretty much just told them to die. They told the church, time to just die. Mm-hmm. You guys are down to 18. They're like,
that's the model for a lot of these church planning gurus, the church growth people. They see a cycle that the church grows, and then it just kind of there's a life cycle.
That's
I've been in a
exactly
church.
right.
I've been in a church where they said the same thing. Well, you're on the dying
Part of your life cycle.
part of it.
They told him to die. They said, we don't want to die.
Yeah.
So it came down, replant the church, and I was like, well, I'm Southern Baptist. And they're like, well, okay, well, we'll write. I guess we'll roll with you.
So when you attend a Southern Baptist seminary, if you're Southern Baptist, if you're endorsed by a Southern Baptist church, you have to have your church's endorsement to go. Then you get a discount.
Yeah,
That's right.
You get half off.
right.
But you also have to sign something that says that in good faith you will go to a Southern Baptist church.
Yes,
That you will seek ministry in a Southern Baptist organization. And I signed that with no hesitation. I mean, that's what I plan on doing. That's
what you did.
part of my identity, and that's what I did. And I still believe that there are good Southern Baptist churches, no doubt. There are faithful churches, there are faithful pastors, there are faithful Christians all over the country and probably all over the world that identify as Southern Baptist. I don't want to throw the whole thing under the bus. I'm saying that the direction of it, while the leadership, the people that are making the big decisions, the people at the very top are giving lip service to the gospel and to the sufficiency and inerrancy of Scripture, in their practice, they are denying it.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took a while. We were patient, I think, and hopeful. Like people are like, oh, well, wait till next year. It's always like next year. Oh, we'll wait till next year. Oh, we'll wait till next year. I've heard that like 10 times. 10 years.
You wait till Anaheim.
Yeah.
If the trend holds, usually the president is elected 2 years in a row. Usually, that's usually the trend. So, and it's in Anaheim. I don't know how small churches. I don't know how many of them are going to be able to financially go to Anaheim. Right.
No.
So I am predicting that Ed Litton will be the president again. So the call is going to be next year.
Next year. It's always next year.
It's always next year. And again, even if you get the presidency, the president doesn't dictate how things go. He nominates the nominating committee. The nominating committee is the one that nominates all of the other positions. And so it's a trickle-down effect. So you can't just have, and it takes a long time because these trustees, on the boards, they're there for 2-3 years on this kind of this rotation, and so you have to have consecutive. And you can go back and read the history of the conservative resurgence. You have to have consecutive presidents. That will consecutively do this. And I am with Russell Fuller. Russell Fuller, he's the Hebrew professor from Southern that got fired a couple of years ago because he was calling out some of this stuff. He was basically a whistleblower, and he got fired for it. He said, I don't even have a list of people that could do that.
Yeah.
Like you got to have the people lined up. With the conservative resurgence, you had Adrian Rogers, you had Charles Stanley, you had Criswell, you had these guys. Who are we going to nominate?
Yeah.
Like, can you name anybody that you'd be like, this is someone that I would nominate? I'd say Tom Askell.
Yeah.
Can you name anyone else?
Golly.
Jared Longshore. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
It's too soon, Jay.
I'm sorry, guys,
soon.
if I opened up a wound. Sorry. Couldn't resist.
Yeah, abandoning us for paedobaptism. I don't know. I just don't have a list of people that I would say this person would be good for the job.
All right, we got to move on. We're not going to get to these two big questions. We got to get to them, and you guys are got timelines you got to get to. So
yeah, we still got a little bit of time, but all right. So we've got some that we can kind of lump together.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So we've got, how likely is it that the SBC will actually start to implode? It just depends on. I mean, there's so many factors. The biggest factor for me, I think, right now is what's going to go on with the executive committee in this investigation, and they've waived attorney-client privilege. Yeah. So they have essentially said everything is fair game.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the investigation comes back, they covered up stuff, this is not a criminal investigation. This is a civil investigation. They've opened themselves up to the executive committee can be sued. Any of the institutions can be sued. Anyone on the executive committee can be sued. Like that's why a bunch of these people have. That's how a bunch of these people have resigned. It's like even this will financially ruin people if they
weren't serving during the time it was happening. Right. Just the fact that they're on the board now, they're like, I can't be on the board now.
Yeah,
I've got to go.
I don't even know. I mean, legally, I don't know what this would do for the churches that are associated with the Southern Baptist Convention. I just don't know.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not far fetched to say that the SBC could be sued into oblivion, and that that $462 million that is being given for missions is going to go to pay off lawsuits. I don't know.
Here's the other thing to consider about it. How likely will it implode? I guess if you could slow it down, what's a long implosion?
Right.
Everyone that gives, the majority of givers are going to die in the next 20 years.
Right.
Like the majority of the money that comes from the boomers now.
Oh, it's old money, right?
The World War II generation, there are very few of them left. Very few.
Yeah.
So now it's into the boomer generation, and they're the majority of the money, and they're retiring, many of them. So the money is going to start drying up anyway because they don't have regular income. It's now retirement that they're paying, they're giving their gifts and offerings off of. But then when they die,
right.
What I'm saying is it's over.
Yeah, right.
Because they haven't replaced the givers with people from the younger generation.
Right.
So
we're poor.
It's a matter of time.
we're old poor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you've got churches that are leaving. You've got churches that are not giving. I mean, God can do something. God could bring revival to the SBC today if he wanted to, but
I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, there's a lot. There's no repentance.
What I argued, I wrote an article a long time ago.
Yeah.
You can go check it out. It's about all the missing people, and I equated it to like not knowing where your soldiers are, and how like it's a big deal. I don't think there will be any There's not going to be any revival until there's repentance of that, and we stop and there's stop lying about how many people are here that are in.
Yeah.
So there's that problem.
Yeah. So there's a lot of factors, and it could take a long time. So I'm not going to judge any church that's like we're going to stay in and fight. Because the conservative resurgence is a clear example that God can use faithful people to turn the convention around. I mean, you look at what was going on in the 70s that was preceding the conservative resurgence. I mean, you had liberalism, not like just a little bit to the left of us, like seminary professors teaching evolution, that Genesis 1 through 11 was myth.
No miracles, stuff
no
like
miracles. That. Yeah. So it was real bad. It was really bad in the 70s and 80s, and the conservative resurgence happened, and that all got turned around. I mean, go into YouTube and watch Albert Mohler's chapel address. I mean, him and his family were getting spit on at Southern Seminary when he was hired, because all these students were liberals. They're spitting on him. Like, can you imagine? Death threats. I mean, they were threatened with violence. Like, that's not the SBC that we grew up in, right? So God can change it, but each church is going to have to make its decision whether it wants to stay in, whether it thinks that it's worth it.
Right.
Right.
So the thing that's always, and this question brings it out, what would happen to the missionaries, and then what would happen to the seminaries? So we'll go, what would happen to the missionaries in the field?
So I looked up some stuff. I know you like this stuff, Jay, so I did some research for you.
Thank you.
3,604 overseas missionaries. So it's IMB. So 3,604. This is from January 31st of this year.
Yeah.
So they've sent some more, but I don't know how many have come back. They're implementing the vaccine mandate for the IMB. I don't know how that's going to affect the missionaries. 3,057, like I said, domestic, and they didn't split that up. A lot of those NAM missionaries are part-time or bivocational.
Right.
And then there's 6 seminaries that have 23,818 students. So those are your numbers.
Well, the majority, we'll go easiest. The majority of the seminary, I think, is should be able to function without support from the churches.
They'll have to make some changes for sure.
They'll
have to definitely make some changes. But I think that those changes would be good for the seminaries because the seminaries have gotten so big, and so you have to just there's no discernment. How many people did you go to seminary with that you at one point were like, this person is trained to be a pastor?
A lot.
Yeah. And the reason why they just accept people is because they gotta fund it, right?
Yep.
You gotta fund how big it is. So I think that it would be good for these seminaries to shrink.
Yes.
Because then they would have to be more discerning about.
I would tell.
All right, we can only take this many.
Here would be a plug.
Because we can only employ this many professors.
Here's a plug. Now, I know there are people that don't like John MacArthur's seminary, the Master's Seminary, but I can tell you this. I've gone to a Southern Baptist seminary. It was a very good seminary. I got my doctoral degree from John MacArthur Seminary. From looking at their master's level guys, they're more quality.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Way more, by and large, than the ones that I went to school with.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll even allow you into school there without being interviewed and screened.
Okay.
And without a church endorsing you to go.
Yeah.
That's definitely not the case. Anybody can just go to a SBC seminary. You can if you can sign up and pay the money, you're in.
Yeah. If you want the SBC discount, you have to have some stuff because even Julia had to write something.
Yes.
For me to go. But I think if you're not SBC, I think it's kind of a open door.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, because there was that controversy with Paige Patterson several years ago where he allowed that Muslim to enroll.
That's right.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's like, what is this?
What are you doing?
This is supposed to be educating ministers. This is not a liberal arts university.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So what would happen to the missionaries? Well, I would say if there are 47,000 SBC churches.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? And then there's 3,000 something missionaries. Super easy. You get like 5 churches.
You bypass the salaries, the bureaucracy,
and you give directly to the missionary.
Yeah.
And the missionary then would be like accountable to like 2 or 3 churches,
right?
And then they're still supported and fully funded.
Yeah, I don't think it would. I mean, there'd have to be some changes in the way that they operate, but I don't think it's impossible. I don't think the whole thing is just going to. Yeah. We're just abandoning all these missionaries. I think that there are ways. Again, technology has developed enough that we can be in contact with these people and they can contact us.
Well, just think about how we got involved with this church. We church planted to a place, and I won't say the place. Well, I guess I could say broadly where it is. It's in. Well, I don't want to say where it is either, in case.
All right.
In case these people are listening.
Right. Yeah.
And work their intelligence magic. Yeah. But this is a local person, and they're not American,
which is the best, right?
That's the best.
Indigenous people planting their own churches in their own country. That is the best way for them to function, to prosper. Right? Not for Americans to go over and try to do all this work, but to do the work of evangelism. And let the indigenous people plant churches.
So here's how it happened. I met someone at Shepherd's Conference who is a church planner in a part of the world where it's a no-no. So he's like, "Hey, I've done this." He's with us theologically. I mean, this guy grew up in the old Soviet Union. I mean, this dude is serious. He knows it's dangerous what he's doing, and so I was really impressed with him. And he had already proven that he's faithful over a long time. Like, he'd been a pastor way longer than any of us.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's a guy I've been mentoring for a long time. He wants to do it too in his country. So he's like, would you consider? I'm like, well, we're kind of a church restart, to plant ourselves. So I took it back to the church. It wasn't in the budget. You remember this? Yeah, we had no budget for it. And I presented it, and I said, hey, here's this opportunity. I think God just laid this out for us to support this new church. in this place that has about 13 million people and around 2,500 evangelical Christians. And I present it to the church. I'm like, do you guys want to do it? It may mean that you guys got to dig in your pockets and, pull out some money you don't have. And everybody did it. They're like, let's do it. So we were the first sole supporters of that church. And the SBC didn't help us do that.
Right.
And we still give.
There was that.
And
there was an SBC missionary that
right.
that kind of swooped in, though.
Yeah, he
right?
came in after everything was up and running. I mean, he's still there. I think he's a pretty decent guy.
Yeah.
But he's there. I think he's kind of learning, right? He's there trying to learn the language and all this.
And that's not the most efficient way for us to be spending our money. Is here's people who are believers.
Mm-hmm.
Who already know the language and the culture and all of that, and we can support them directly.
And I just think about growing up in church my whole life, giving to the Lottie Moon Christmas offering, hearing of foreign missionaries.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you a single one's name.
Right.
But I know faces and names of people in this church plant that we're supporting, and I just have an emotional connection with them more than I've ever had with any of these others, giving through the cooperative program.
Yeah.
So I think there would be more of that. Like, so moving forward, if our church leaves, we'll have opportunity to look for more of this.
Yeah, I think God will use this for good, to get back to more of what we see in the New Testament.
Right.
So I again, the way that the cooperative program is talked about so often is that this is it.
It's the best thing ever in the world.
This is not just the best way to do it. It's really the only way to do it. I can't believe no one else is doing this. But you look at the New Testament and how the churches are supporting missionaries, and there's no indication that this is a bad way to do it.
Right.
So I think that God will use it for good. That next question: what are some other avenues we might pursue for supporting new missionaries? We don't share any missionaries through the Christ Centered Churches Conference, but we have a network, and people know people, and that's how we can network, right? We get in touch with other people who know other people, and that's how we can.
And it's more likely the missionaries that we would meet through those avenues would be more closely aligned with, our what we would believe are more biblical mission strategies.
Yeah. I've got a friend in Arkansas that he is. They call him the Pope of Arkansas, because he just kind of has. Well, they also call him the Spurgeon of Arkansas, because he just knows everybody. And he said, if we ever, have a need to get in touch with people that need support, he's the guy. You've got connections at MacArthur's church. There's just tons of ways.
Mm-hmm.
The SBC is not the only organization that's doing mission work.
Right.
There are other places. We can think of people like Paul Washer and Heart Cry Ministries. They send out missionaries.
We
can support. There's so many people.
We could get in touch with them, and
there's no limit to what we can do. We can do pretty much whatever we want because we're an autonomous church.
That's true.
Right? We can support whoever we want to send. But one thing I wanted to mention, and I hope that our church watches this. We need to consider, are we praying for God to raise up people in our church to go?
Mm-hmm.
We've got 50 kids. We've got single people at our church. Is God leading people to go?
Mm-hmm.
To go and do mission work? There are still unreached people in the world.
Yeah.
There are unreached people in Oklahoma that have never heard the gospel. What are we going to do as a local church to send people out? Are we just saying, well, there's other people that are, going. What about us?
Mm-hmm.
What about us? What are we? How are we training our kids? How are we teaching our kids? Are we teaching our kids? You got to get this kind of education. You got to go to college and you got to get a good paying job and things like that. Or are we teaching them? It is worthwhile to give up everything to preach the gospel to other people.
Mm. Yep.
So as a church, we need to be thinking about that also, not constantly looking outside our church. How are we going to support people outside our church? what about our church? Are we doing the work
That's good.
of training and raising up people who will go?
Yeah.
So I want to encourage our church
That's
to
good.
be praying for that.
Yes.
Maybe you don't feel like that's where God is leading you. Maybe there's no doors for you. But be praying that God would raise people up. We have got 50 kids in our church.
How many?
I think it would be a tragedy if none of them felt called to do mission work. I would feel like we've failed in some way.
Yeah.
If we haven't sent anybody out, I don't know, we need to be praying about that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I wanted to mention that.
Might need to find a way to reincorporate that thing we used to have, in our worship service.
I have no idea what you're
Keep
talking
it before
about.
their eyes every month.
Oh yeah. Praying for.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so here's. Can we jump over the statement of faith real quick, because we've talked about.
I think we can deal with it real quick. Just like 2 minutes.
Well, I wanted to connect it to the. Would we ever recommend an SBC school or seminary in the future?
Okay.
So I want to come back to it. I don't
Okay.
want to get rid of that one. But just real quick, will the elders ever recommend an SBC school or seminary in the future? And if not, what schools will we recommend? So for me, I would recommend, even now, as we're still SBC, I would recommend an SBC school or seminary in the same way that I would recommend going to a public university.
Mm-hmm.
Go in with discernment.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Like it'd be the same if I heard someone was going to OU. Like, you need to go in with eyes wide open, on your guard.
Yeah.
That's I hate to say it, but that's the same way that I would encourage someone that's going to Oklahoma Baptist University. Yeah. Like, go in knowing that the science professors, they teach theistic evolution. Like, no doubt.
Yeah.
There are liberals. I was in the English department. Like, I knew the liberals
at OBU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The theater department.
Yeah.
Don't think that there's not like this kind of underground homosexual community at OBU. So go in with eyes wide open.
Yeah.
I'd say the same with the seminaries.
I think the seminaries are much more conservative, though. Than
I think so. I think that you should still be on guard. I mean, there's professors at Southern that I would say don't take this guy.
Yeah. I would recommend Midwestern.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you look at the lay of the land, I think they're the most solid right now. So if someone said, "Hey, I want to go," first I would say go to the Master's Seminary in California, which isn't reasonable for a lot of people.
Well, it's gonna. So
then I would say Midwestern after that.
With Masters, the only thing is that you have to sign their statement of faith agreeing with dispensationalism.
Right.
That's the only thing there. So if you're a dispensationalist, hey, go on. But I looked at Masters, and it's very expensive.
Yeah, I mean, California is expensive, but they also have a ton of scholarships available. And I don't know if it's still the case. I know it was the case, but I know they've changed a lot. For instance, in this program that I was in the doctoral program, you didn't have to believe that. You had to be a dispensationalist.
Right.
I mean, there were all millennials in my.
I think it's different with the undergrad.
It may be different because they do have
They've got the school. They've got the university.
Yeah, you can just be a student at the college.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to sign off on that. So you can just be a student and get an education, which they have that's a good one there.
Yeah.
But the master's program, you may have to still, but I'm not sure because they have really kind of shed a little bit of their fundamentalist, like the old school fundamentalism. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
don't go into debt going to seminary.
Right.
That's no good because pastoring is not your moneymaker.
Mm-hmm. What?
Don't go into mounds of debt going to seminary.
Right.
I looked at Southwest Baptist University in Bolivar, Missouri. They're connected to Missouri Baptist Convention, so they're SBC. But just looking at their statement of faith, a lot more solid than OBU. So that's one place that I would say you got. I mean, if you
is that the strip mall seminary?
No,
it's a different
one. No, that's an undergraduate.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about your kid going to college, that's a place that I would say at least look into it. at least look into it. That's in Bolivar. For seminary, there's IRBS down in Texas. They're a Reformed Baptist seminary.
Right.
Samuel Renahan, Richard Barcellos, they're down there. David Bain, that's where he was going to seminary.
Yeah.
Seems really solid. There's Puritan Reform Seminary with Joel Beakey in Michigan. Joel Beakey it's Presbyterian, so you go in knowing that, but solid guy. Just ignore his stuff on infant baptism. There is the seminary that Owen Strand's at in Conway, Arkansas. Grace Theological.
Grace Theological or Grace Baptist?
I think it's just Grace Theological. It is Baptist. Jeff Johnson's there. Owen Strand. They bring in some guys that we would agree with. Tom Nettles has come in and done classes, so that's a good place also. So there are other seminaries that we would recommend, with undergraduate stuff, you just have to be wary. As parents, we can't just send our kids off to any school and be like, have fun. Right?
Yeah.
I kind of went to OBU with that kind of carelessness.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old, I wasn't even thinking about this stuff. But looking back, it was God's grace that preserved me through much of that, because my Old Testament professor, he was a liberal. Like, he taught that the miracles in Exodus had natural causes. It wasn't as Moses was presenting it in Exodus, and
it's just a volcanic eruption.
Just weird stuff.
Got really windy.
He's not there anymore. But there's liberal churches in Shawnee, Oklahoma. So okay, so going back, we've got, if we get rid of the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, what will replace it? One of the suggestions was the 1689, the Second London Baptist Confession. And then a question that goes along with it is, how long will it be before we present and vote for a new statement? Will we keep using the Baptist Faith and Message 2000 until we adopt something new?
So one that we talked about having for just a blanket is the New Hampshire. But I think we'd have like either the elders would write their own, or we would adopt the 1689 for the elders, because what we want to preserve in the church long after we're gone is that all of the pastors and elders of the church would be coming from the Reformed tradition. Right. So if 1689, which I'm fine with, we would put in a stipulation on probably Sabbatarianism, we would say with slight modifications for all the elders, or we could just write our own statement of faith. That's totally fine too. But it'll be more tight in the Reformed sense. We want to keep it more general, right, for anyone that wants to join, because we don't want to prevent non-Calvinists from joining.
Yeah, that's the reason why we kept the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, is that it's broad enough that you can be Reformed or non-Reformed. Right. Any eschatological position is welcome. But if we adopted the 1689, all of a sudden, if you want to sign off, I believe this, you have to be Reformed, right? In every in every aspect. Soteriology, with Sabbatarianism, their understanding of the law. So I wouldn't even be able to sign the 1689 without caveats, right? And I don't think that it would be in good faith for us to have a statement of faith, and even the elders are like, well, you don't have to hold to everything. Like, I don't think that is ethical.
Would you be more likely to go 1644?
And I think you crack the door open to, well, you said that I don't have to hold all this.
Right. What about this?
What about this?
It has to be more clearly spelled out on what would be, what is your caveat?
Right. Yeah.
We'll allow this. Like, if you can in good conscience say, I believe that.
I still think that it would be better to do something else.
Right. So we're going to look at that, the
Yeah.
New Hampshire.
So that we can go the easy way, which
Mm-hmm.
I would right now I would recommend the New Hampshire Confession of Faith, which is the predecessor to the Baptist Faith and Message. Or we could do the hard route, which would be the church just writes its own, and we just have our own unique statement of faith.
Sure.
Now there are kind of, I think that there's a spectrum there. We could look at other confessions. I mean, I've got a book here that is Baptist Confessions, Covenants, and Catechisms. That's got all kinds of stuff in it, including the New Hampshire Confession of Faith. We've got the Abstract of Principles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is just a very bare bones. But again, you have to be, I think, at least a 3-point Calvinist to sign that. So it's one of those things. How tight do we need to, do we want to make it? And we've got to think about people that are already members.
Mm-hmm.
We've got people that are not 5-point Calvinists that are
Right.
members. We don't want them to feel bad.
Right.
Like, oh, we're pulling the rug out from under you and we're slipping in something. You got to be fully on board. So we want to be really mindful of that. And we don't, I mean, we've said it before. I'm not ashamed to say I think we're the healthiest church in Lawton. I think we're the best church in Lawton. And I don't want to make our confession so narrow that people that are trying to escape some of these pragmatic churches say, well, I really like going to your church, but I'm just not in with everything that you guys hold to on election, and
Right.
you got to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would be better to have a statement that didn't have it as narrow, so that you could just sign it without any kind of problems, rather than saying, well, you can hold to it except for this. You don't have to hold to that. I think it's just easier to say, here's broad enough that if you're an Orthodox Christian, you can hold to it.
Yeah.
But again, we're gonna have to talk about it.
Well, most people, like, if they become if they're a brand new Christian and recently converted and baptized,
Yeah.
they're not going to know what anything means in your statement of faith anyway.
Right.
All they're going to have is a basic understanding of the gospel,
Yeah.
and that's it. And obviously, you're not going to tell them they can't join the church,
Right. Right.
Because they can't understand your complex statement of faith.
Yeah. You don't hold to Athanasian, the
Yeah.
Athanasian Creed. Well, I'm sorry, but
Yeah. So
you don't know about the hypostatic union.
yeah, so I think it's important that we do have that, though, to protect the church in the future. Is that all of the elders, and the church will have to vote on that.
Yeah.
The church will have to approve, say, yeah, we want our elders moving forward into the future, even after you guys, are gone or dead, that no pastor could ever become a pastor of this church unless they were reformed,
Right.
fully adhering to the solas of the Reformation.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, we want our church to be very charitable
Right.
in who is allowed to join as members.
Yeah.
And so we have to, we want that. I would want someone who is passionate about the gospel, a brand new convert, to feel right at home and not feel discriminated against
Right.
because they didn't have all their ducks in a row.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I
agree.
mean?
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think that we would hold on to the Baptist Faith and Message 2000 even if we left until we had a new one.
Yeah, I think,
and I don't have a problem with the Baptist Faith and Message 2000. I just think that if we're leaving the Southern Baptist Convention, that we need to leave the Southern Baptist Convention.
right.
Yeah.
We're still Baptist, but we're going to, not because we disagree with the statement of faith, but because we're not Southern Baptists anymore. So we're going to have something that is just more general.
This webpage may be gone. I don't know if I swung it over when we made the new webpage for this church, but from Redeemer. But I wrote, it was like 10 articles or something.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Philip, on what we believe? So it's not going to be that difficult
Right.
for us to write our own.
We just want to be
it's
really
not-
precise.
Right.
We want to be really precise and not leave things open to interpretation.
But if
the problem with the Baptist Faith and Message 2000 that has arisen is that the authors of it believe that there was no distinction between the office and the function of a pastor.
Right.
And so when they said that the office of a pastor cannot be held by a woman, they just took it for granted that meant that a woman would not be allowed to preach.
Right.
to the congregation. But it's open to interpretation now because it wasn't defined precisely enough. So we don't want to leave stuff open like that because we got to be forward looking. Jay, George, and Philip are not always going to be sitting here. We want the church to be healthy after we're gone, after we're dead, right? And we have to be thinking about that now.
Yeah.
How are we going to protect the church in the future? Because that's our job as pastors, is not just to think about, November 10th, 2021, we're healthy right now. We got to be thinking about, all right, how can we be wise enough to protect the church of 2041?
Right.
Right. We can't just say, well, the future pastors can deal with that. We got to deal with it right now because we're the pastors of the church.
Yeah.
Right. There was one other thing I was going to say, Jay, and I just completely.
We'll look at it. We may.
I hate when
may
that happens.
We may be able to bring something to the church in December.
Yeah.
For sure, we'll bring something that's a placeholder.
I would encourage the church right now to look at the New Hampshire Confession of Faith. You can Google it. I mean, it's out there.
Right.
Look at the New Hampshire Confession and see what you think.
Yeah. Okay, we got to do this one.
Yep.
This one's from Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
He's curious, what exactly is a Baptist, and why do people place emphasis on this? So, in a broad sense, here's an easy answer. If you don't baptize babies and you baptize believers, you're technically a Baptist. Now, to narrow it a bit, Baptists are different than Anabaptists in this sense. Baptists really do, despite what people would say, are linked to the Reformation and the Reformation stream and tradition. There's actually an article that was recently written by what's that guy's name? George. That's his last name? George. Timothy George.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see if I can find it. Maybe I can post it in the comments. But he shows how. So he shows how in the 1600s, when the 1644 and 1689 Baptist confessions were being drafted, you had this group of people who were not Anabaptists and they were not congregational Paedo-Baptist or Presbyterians. And so they, in their language, to try to distinguish themselves clearly, they use language, we're not Anabaptist, because Anabaptists had become associated with some antinomianism and some lawlessness and anti-government stuff. And
yeah, I've got the First London Baptist here, and it, like, right on the front page, it's like we are. I think it's we are. Where is it?
I think they straight up say we're not Anabaptist.
Yeah. They say that we are unjustly called Anabaptist.
Right.
Yeah, we are commonly but unjustly called Anabaptist.
Yep.
That's what the First Baptist said. We're not Anabaptist.
Yep. And so, but what they are originally, of course, the General Baptists branched off, but originally they were holders to the doctrine, what we call the doctrines of grace.
Mm-hmm.
That means they were Reformed in their soteriology.
Right.
They were Calvinist in their soteriology, if you use like the common lingo. Now they disagreed with paedo-baptism and church governance structures and stuff. They believed in a congregational church, and so they're different. They're not paedo-Baptist, but they are Reformed in their soteriology. They're not Anabaptist. And so they're this unique thing. And I think Baptist actually started out as like a derogatory term, right?
Yeah.
It's something that they were. It's like kind of how they called Christians. They were derogatory. Yeah. Is a derogatory term. And so as Baptists began to move through history, there were a branch would come off, like the General Baptist or the Free Will Baptists, and then you had the Particular Baptist. And I think we would say that we fall into that stream of the Particular Baptist. And we believe in particular redemption or definite atonement. And so we would trace back our lineage to the people of the Reformation. And we fully acknowledge that at the time of the Reformation, there weren't Baptists yet. But coming out of that theology, Baptist emerged. And so that's kind of what a Baptist is. Technically, any independent church that says they're non-denominational,
It's usually Baptist.
yeah, if they
They just have a cool website.
yeah, they won't say it,
Yeah.
but they won't say it. But they'll be if they baptize believers and they're non-denominational, that's technically a Baptist church.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I listed 6 distinctives that I could think of that Baptist scholars and theologians usually say this is what Baptist usually is. The top ones are baptism of believers only by immersion. Congregational. So each congregation is autonomous.
Right.
They choose their own elders. They practice their own church discipline. It's not you don't send it to a presbytery. The presbytery doesn't, like, there's not an organization or a board over the church. And then you got priesthood of all believers. And going along with that is called soul competency. You know what soul competency is, Jay? Philip had to remind me of, he had to Google it to remind me of it.
It's that you're competent to read and understand Scripture.
Yeah, and your conscience.
Right.
You have freedom of conscience.
Yeah.
We don't bind
Right.
the conscience on non-essential
Right.
issues. And then separation of church and state has been kind
Right.
of typical of Baptists also.
Right.
Baptists have never been proponents of the church state.
Right.
Yeah. So those are kind of the
Broad ones. Yeah.
the broad ones, but immersion, believers only, and congregationalism, those are really the 2 big ones.
What it's interesting to me is in the 6-year period, we've had a ton of people join this church that have been members of Baptist churches for a long time, all over the place around this area.
Yeah.
And they have not been baptized by immersion after their conversion.
Right. Yeah, we've had a lot.
So it's odd to see, but it's there.
Yeah.
That has been.
It's kind of in the name.
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But again, I think it's that pragmatism.
Right.
I think it's pragmatism. Baptism, it still has some significance to the world. I mean, you are still making a statement. It's not. I mean, I think a lot of Baptist churches are too quick to baptize people, and they have, churches have these mass baptisms.
Right.
But we take it seriously, and I think that there are still people that because of pragmatism, they don't force anyone, because you got to get up in front of people and you got to do this. You got to be dunked underwater, and people are embarrassed, they're shy. It's making a statement, and so I think there are a lot of Baptist, quote unquote Baptist churches that, because of their pragmatism, they want the numbers, but they don't want to make people uncomfortable by saying this is a command of Christ that you be baptized.
We didn't even bring this up. It could have been in our 6. Congregationalism has been pretty much that. They've thrown it out.
The
in the
Baptist
SBC.
distinctives of the SBC
are
not stressed at all.
Yeah. So for instance, the current president does not have satellites, right?
Yeah.
Satellite churches are non-congregational.
Yeah.
J.D. Greer's churches were non-congregational.
Yeah.
They had satellite campuses. They're run in the Episcopal fashion. If you're looking for a technical church governance form, they're Episcopalians. They'll never call themselves Episcopalians, but that's how they're governing. And then even one more before him, Gaines. Did Gaines have satellite campuses?
I think so.
And then you go back one more. Ronnie Floyd, satellite campuses. So the last 4 SBC presidents were non-congregational.
Yeah.
Now, I don't care what they say. They can say whatever they want. When you have a mothership church that's governing all of these satellite campuses, you're no longer congregational.
Yeah.
And that's been thrown out.
Going along with that is regenerate church membership.
Oh man.
That's not stressed.
Oh no.
Right.
That's linked to
That's pragmatism.
That's linked to
right?
believers' baptism.
Yeah, and then church discipline.
Yeah.
Church discipline is gone.
And it seems like the majority of problems, I'd say almost all the big problems that I've seen in churches in recent years have resulted because of those 2 things. You got unregenerate church membership, and then you've got these lost people claiming to be Christians that sin, and then they're not disciplined. And
Why are sexual abuse allegations such a big deal in the Baptist church? Like where are these people that are sexually abusing kids coming from? Because you're bringing in unregenerate people, and then you're saying you're a member of the church, you can work with the kids.
Right.
And then even after, they're not disciplining.
Yeah.
Who was that guy that that was accused of sexual abuse, and like people like Paige Patterson got him another
job.
Yeah,
I don't remember his name, but he was like a high tier guy in the SBC.
Yeah,
they shuffled him around different states.
Yeah, like that's worldly, that's wicked.
Yeah.
The Baptist distinctives are just kind of shuffled. That's not even a Baptist distinctive. Goodness, that's church discipline. Is just
should be
it's in
part
the
of the
it's just church. It's just what the church is supposed to do.
Right.
So another way of that's what is a Baptist. The second part of the question is why put emphasis on it, and you could just reword it. Why is it important?
Right.
And I would say that it's important because we believe that's what the Bible teaches.
Right.
It's not something that we can just say, matter of opinion. Take it or leave it. I love my Presbyterian brothers and sisters, but I think they're wrong on baptism. And I know that there's a variety of different opinions. I know that we differ a little bit on that. I wouldn't take communion with Presbyterians because I don't think they've been baptized. I mean, historically, in the Baptist Church, baptism by immersion as a believer was a prerequisite to taking the Lord's Supper. So I would look at my Presbyterian brothers and sisters, and I would say, I think that you're Christians. Like if you're professing faith in Christ, I believe you're a Christian. And I'm not going to rail against your church. I'd just say that you are not baptized and shouldn't be taking the Lord's Supper until you're following the commandment of the Lord in baptism. Because I think that's what the Bible teaches. And I think that's what you see throughout the Scripture. So I think that we should be convictionally Baptist, and it's important because we want to obey the Bible. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to make it, first tier. This is the difference between being a Christian and not being a Christian. I'd put it on second tier. This is what divides one congregation from another. But as Baptist, we want to follow the Bible as closely as we can. And the Presbyterians, if they're convictional, they'd say the same thing about us. They think we're wrong. But they still would say we're believers. So they've moved past, the drowning us stage of their history. But I think that we want to adhere as closely to the Bible as we possibly can, and maybe we're wrong. I don't think we are. I think that the Presbyterians are wrong. I think R.C. Sproul knows better now.
Right. I think in the question, it's not so much important to call yourself a Baptist or have your Baptist in your name.
Right.
Because as we've already demonstrated, there are a ton of people that say they are, but they're not.
And we don't have Baptists in the name of our church.
Baptist isn't in our name, but we are practicing, I think, biblical baptism, which is important.
Right.
So I hope hopefully that answers the question.
So that's why we emphasize this, because we think it's biblical.
Yeah. Can y'all clarify this for me, Parker's comment? He says, too soon, I want my $2.
Oh,
I don't know what it is.
Oh, he's talking about the budget. We put our placeholder or whatever. We've been giving money.
That's what I get
there's
it now.
There's an old movie where it's a movie Better Off Dead. Funny John Cusack movie from the 80s. There's this paper boy that keeps chasing him down, trying to get his $2 for the paper money. And
he posted this GIF.
Crazy,
I want my $2.
Yeah.
Props to Parker. That was a great GIF.
Okay, I get it now. And then
did it throw you off because Parker was making a movie reference?
Yeah, Emily posted a Happy Reformation Day.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's her.
She said something funny during the members meeting. We should write a letter and nail it, the 95 points, and nail it to the door sign. That was great.
You could just mail it out. 95 reasons.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we answered the questions that were sent in on our members page. But again, if there's more questions from our members, we want to field those. We don't want this to be the very thing that we're criticizing, the top-down leadership. Yeah. The church is governed by the people. It's governed by the believers because they are all priests of Christ because of the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
Right.
There's no distinction between the pastor and the congregation. We're all believers.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for listening today. Hopefully this has been beneficial to you and informative. Maybe your church is in a similar situation. Maybe you're grappling with it yourselves and don't know what you're going to do. And us just talking through what we're doing. Hopefully that's helpful to you. And if you're part of our church, hopefully we did answer your questions. If not, you can always shoot us a text or you can drop it in there on the Facebook post, and we'll try to get to it next time, and we'll get back to you on them. So it's our hope, as always, that the discussion and everything we do here helps you to be more and more conformed to Christ. See you next time.